we measure life in milestones. For example, a big one this year is the semi-quincentennial, love that word, of the United States. That's despite all the issues that I'm definitely not getting into here. At the opposite end of this is the very unremarkable 11th season of Treknicity, of which this is the first episode. And yeah, I know some of those seasons are short. But today, we're finally going to talk about the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, what's happened over the decades, and more precisely, what the franchise means to us. This is Treknicity. Welcome to Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast where we explore the Star Trek multiverse one mission at a time. I'm your host, Patrick Murray, and waxing nostalgic with me today is Kat Drake, James Mottershead, and Lars DeSenza.
Woo!
We're back, baby! Yeah!
Season 11! We're never gonna die! Woo!
Never.
Until we die.
I promise I'll never die.
Until the future.
Don't worry, we'll just keep this going. 30 more seasons. We're gonna be like The Simpsons, but a podcast.
Okay, let's quit. Goodbye. Goodbye, folks.
Bye. Bye. Goodbye. Bye.
Okay. That's
Damn it.
What? Okay. So in this episode, we're going to look back at the impact of the franchise on our vision of the future, the technological direction Trek has taken us, the infinite diversity and infinite combinations that it has promoted, and how it has affected our popular culture.
All right.
Got that right. I got the infinite diversity part right.
Yes, you do. Got everything else wrong.
Yes.
All right. So for all of us, the stories of Star Trek have been rooted in the political reality of their time, based on an optimistic vision of a future where humans and other species of the galaxy mostly have solved the issues that divide us. Whether it's the social upheaval of the 60s, the waning Cold War of the 80s, or the increasingly diverse post 9/11 online driven world, Star Trek has embraced the ideas of diversity, morality, discovery, collaboration, and peaceful coexistence. From the episodic morality plays of the original series, the slow unraveling of the utopia of the next generation in a paranoia of DS9's Dominion War storyline, and eventually re-examining and recontextualizing everything in the Kurtzman era, Star Trek has never shied away from imagining a better future, even in the darkest of times. So, let's talk about the storytelling and how it's impacted us. James, why don't you lead us off?
Well, for me, having been born in what I would regard as the golden age of Star Trek, peak Trek era, i.e. the 90s, it was never just a TV show for me. So growing up in the 90s, my Trek was all the classics, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. Those weren't just adventures in space. They were lessons in how to be a better person for me. They taught me that diversity isn't something to fear. It's our greatest strength. That the best solutions come from collaboration, not conflicts. That science, curiosity, and compassion can change the world. Captain Picard showed me that real leadership isn't about just shouting the loudest. It's about listening, reasoning, and standing by our principles, even when it's difficult. And as a result, I think Star Trek made me the person that I am today. So, Kat, what are your thoughts?
I mean, okay. I mean, I know that you were talking about being born during the golden age. I was born during kind of the dark the dark times when it comes to Trek. You know, we didn't have
For
any
the
new
Empire? Oh, wrong
shows.
series.
Yeah, like we didn't have any new shows. I grew up watching just random episodes here and there whenever they were on TV. And then we got the two Abrams movies that exists. Obviously, you know, Star Trek and Star Trek Beyond.
Nothing in between.
That was, I mean, Star Trek itself was my introduction. And there was something about it that kind of made me go, huh, space, the final frontier. I like it. And from there, I mean, my, I guess, Star Trek brain rot, as you would call it, started from there. I remember after Beyond came out, I then found Discovery. I then found, you know, Strange New Worlds and all of the other amazing Star Trek shows that came back during kind of the late 2010s. And then afterwards, I was like, I need more. And that was when, you know, I started going back to the golden era. And it showed me the two hardest hitting things is that, you know, no matter what, humanity will prevail. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But the other one is, you know, they taught me to keep up hope even when things were looking down and things were looking bleak. You know, you just gotta keep on hoping, keep on trucking, and you're all good. That's really about it. I feel like I've talked too long. Patrick, what do you think?
Two things. First, to catch on the number one, it's 2026, so I don't know about the hope part. But also, have you watched Lower Decks yet? I had to get there. But yeah, I am the oldest here. I grew up when I grew up, we had something called Star Trek. Nothing else after it, just this really old show. I think there was an animated series, but I grew up, I really wasn't a fan until this new show, Star Trek Next Generation, showed up. And weirdly, I liked Wesley Crusher. I don't know why, but he spoke to me, probably because Will Wheaton's actually around my age, so somebody my age doing space shit kind of clicked. But yeah, I wasn't as much of, the thing is, growing up, I wasn't as much of a Star Trek fan. I was always more of a Star Wars guy. Something about getting old enough in 1977 just to start getting into that. And Trek was really just all this old stuff and the motionless picture. Okay, sorry, I fell asleep listening to that. But yeah, being able to start to imagine these optimistic futures that still had problems they had to deal with. And as I slowly immersed and watched more series, and then the Kurtzman, even the Kurtzman era has kind of clicked it for me, even despite Discovery Season 1. It just shows an entire range of stories told in the same universe, some more optimistic than others, but all of them pointing in that same direction, that eventually we will get past all of this shit. Yeah, that basically. So let's finish this up. Lars, go ahead.
Star Trek has always been a platform for social commentary. It started off with the original series. Gene was kind of tied, but you know, he had his hands tied behind his back because the studios didn't want that level of social commentary coming out because they didn't want the controversy. They wanted people to watch the show. They didn't want them protesting it like they did in situations where, you know, they had a black woman on the screen and, you know, stations in the South refused to even air episodes because of her involvement. So it's really important to understand that no matter where you pick up Star Trek in the fandom, there is something that you can learn. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what lifestyle you lead. There is some form of lesson that you can pick up. And I think that has been one of the most wonderful aspects of this entire franchise. Does anybody else have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I will say on the a side note, a lot of the tech bros that seem to embrace Star Trek kind of missed all of the lessons.
Yeah.
So yeah, not everybody gets it. For some of them, it's just pew pew, spaceships going boom.
Spaceship go kaboom.
I will say that this whole franchise not only has inspired generations of people to want a utopian future or a better humanity, it actually has inspired them to work together, to come together in their own communities. There is the likes of Starfleet International. There's the International Federation of Trekkers, which my wife and I were briefly associated with. And then, of course, there are countless other groups all over the world that are just a good community of Star Trek fans. James, why don't you take us into the next section?
Absolutely. So, like any science fiction series, Star Trek had to come up with technology to explain how they did all the things. But to do this, they took a lot of real science, figured out how it might apply, and applied a good dose of technobabble so it wasn't just a hit the button situation. And the attention to some semblance of detail paid off, as people were inspired by the fake exploration to explore space for real, or to make the gadgets on the shows a reality. Star Trek was airing as NASA was shooting for the moon, ending shortly after Apollo 11 landed. NASA then embraced the series, working with the cast, especially Nichelle Nichols, to promote the adventure of manned spaceflight and even naming the first shuttle Enterprise. And on the technology front, we can look at flip phones, tablets, and even functional tricorders and see how the idea evolved. So let's talk about how technology and space travel have been inspired by, and in turn, inspired Star Trek. Cat.
You know what? Star Trek has inspired so much technological advancement that it borders on somehow magical. I'm just gonna come right out with it. I mean, Star Trek was around the time of it starting, we were going through like a massive technological boom because, we were 20 years out of, 20, 30 years out of World War II, which which brought about computers, but then also kind of around the time of its release, all around of NASA launching things into space and hoping for the best and everything else, because of it, we experienced a massive technological boom. I mean, hell, if it wasn't for some of the technological advancements that were inspired by Trek, we wouldn't be able to do this podcast nowadays. Well, I mean, we could, but it'd be a whole lot worse. I mean,
flight times would be a nightmare.
Exactly. I mean, hell, not just technological advancement, but also like vehicles, right? I mean, we're coming up with new stuff every day. I mean, hell, just the other day, I saw some guy rolling around on a one-wheeled automatic skateboard. Like that's the kind of tech that you can see being inspired by the stories of Trek. I mean, hell, even medical devices have traveled forwards because of Trek with medical tricorders, inspiring things. I mean, if it wasn't for Trek, I wouldn't have one of these bad boys. It's a wonderful, wonderful show for technological advancement, and the only downside is the AI slop that's come out because people now think, ooh, AI, let's use it like the holodeck computer. But no, that's enough for me. I'm going to stop. Patrick, what do you think?
I did a lot. For working on this section, I did a little bit of research because, yeah, Star Trek started up at the same time NASA was in the process of working on Project Apollo. Gemini was wrapping up at that time. They'd gotten everything they were going to get out of that, and they were literally going to the moon. And considering they ended Star Trek, I think it was July of 1969,
Nice.
which is
Sorry.
July 20th. Well, in 1969 was the Apollo 11 mission landing. So, yeah, so Star Trek was ending just as NASA was doing the real space thing. So it was a perfect time for everything to occur at that. Obviously, yeah, I remember bits and pieces of Star Trek actors showing up. I remember that seeing things about the Enterprise on the news when I was growing up because it was an actual space shuttle. It never, sure, it was just a test bed and it never got into space. To be, which is probably good because then it didn't share the fate of 2/5 of the shuttles that did fly. We're not going to go too far on that, but yeah, I remember when I got my first personal cell phone. I got a Nokia, and it had a little flip down cover. That was the coolest thing ever. Seriously, you just flip a cover down. It's like, look, I got a flip down cover because I'm cool. And really, it just covered the numbers. That's not like
Beam us up, Scotty.
Yeah, and let's do it in less than a minute because those cell phone charges. You youngins will never understand the 1 minute call ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blah, 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 okay, I'm done. But yeah, half the technology we use nowadays started in some form trying to make spaceflight more functional. And in fact, things like the GoPro, which is the go-to portable camera, were strapped on the Artemis mission that just went to the moon. So yeah, we're looking at GoPros. So yeah, and what else did I find out? Let's see here. Obviously, the communicators, tablets, voice-activated devices. You know what it means when I pick up the mouse and say, "Hello, computer." It worked.
Yeah.
And we're working on replicator technology, except this is in the form of 3D printing everything, which is a way. And needless to say, things like universal translators, we're not quite there yet, but I pretty regularly, when I'm looking at something in another language, I'm opening up Google Translate, throwing it in, and boom, there I have a translation. And it gets better every day. So, yeah. I think that's all I can say on that. So, Lars, you want to take us on?
Technology that exists today, both of you have hit on the big ones. The personal communication devices, as in the form of the cell phones. My first one was a Motorola StarTAC, which actually flipped up like the communicator. And then later on, I actually had, I think it was a Kyocera phone that did the same thing. It flipped open and it actually had what they called the dolphin chirp sound, which sounded suspiciously like a communicator flip sound. But it is really important to look at everything around us. Like you said, we're having a conversation over a video platform, which in Star Trek, when they brought somebody up on a viewer or up on the main screen, that's the same thing. You're looking at them having that conversation. Just like I'm looking at you in the audience, I'm talking to you through a piece of technology that was inspired directly by what Star Trek utilized. There's so many different things that we have come to know and use just based on the ideas that were inspired by this TV show. And as you said, things like tablets, which I have right here, the the ability to do things through voice activation, to be able to use biometric data like fingerprints, retinal scans, voice patterns, being able to use that to interface with technology. There are people, one of the most famous ones would be Sir Stephen Hawking, being able to use a computer to be able to communicate with the people around him. My sunglasses. I have Meta Ray-Ban sunglasses that I can look at something that's in another language and I can ask it to translate it for me, and it will. I can tell. I can ask it, what am I looking at, and it will accurately describe to me what is in my field of view. This stuff is just incredibly fast moving and evolving, that not only has it inspired people to make it. You were talking about the 3D printing. I mean, right now, to us, that's revolutionary. In another 50 years, it's gonna be as commonplace as having cell phones or having plastic cups or whatever,
Computers.
or computers. Yes. Um,
Yeah.
at the point,
I mean, hell, but I'm sorry.
it become a lot faster to the point where it will border on replicator technology. I mean, how cool is that? That is incredibly awesome. And you made a note about tricorders. I mean, they have devices that they can put on your arm and you can move along, and they can find your veins. They can see if there's any kind of occlusion. They can see stuff like that. Now it's just it's in its early stages, but it's still there. It's still happening. And on top of it, it's inspiring people who may never have gone into STEM to do so, to go into technology. Nichelle Nichols was inspired or convinced to stay in Star Trek by MLK. Dr. Mae Jameson was, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the first colored woman in space. She was inspired by Star Trek, and she ended up being on Star Trek. I mean, how cool is that? What do you guys think, James?
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've all covered like all the key main points, and then even still the last main point that I was kind of clinching on there, Lars. Thank you very much for that. In terms of, look, I think it's not only inspired a lot of technological advancement over the last few decades, but if you really think about it, what it's been really good at is inspiring a lot of people to better mankind, right? And as a result, it's an after effects, it's a side effect of inspiring all those people who have gone into those vocations and gone, I want to explore this. I want to advance humankind. How do I contribute to society and culture as a whole? That's the power of Star Trek, and that's what it's actually managed to achieve over the last 60 years. You know, you kind of hit all the main things on the head in terms of telecommunications, advances in medical equipment and technology, advances in space flight. You know, the fact that we've actually got a spaceship called a bloody starship by that guy we won't mention, but nonetheless, it is inspired.
do his salute?
The Roman salute, yeah.
Of
Yeah,
different
sure.
industries across the decades, right? And as a result, we are here doing this because of some of those advancements. So, I mean, the one thing I will touch upon, which I think you also stole my thunder on that, because I also had a Motorola flip phone. I think it was a Razor. That I
was
used
later
to go
than the
around as a
StarTAC.
kid, constantly flip it out every time I got a call like a communicator. And I'm not even afraid to admit it, because I absolutely did do that every single time.
3 of us that did that with our version.
I just want to go on record and say today you are my spirit animal.
So that being said, we'll move on to the next topic, which is over to you, Kat.
Infinite diversity in infinite combinations is more than just a cornerstone of Vulcan philosophy. It is very much a core tenet of the DNA on which the Star Trek multiverse was built on. From its inception, Star Trek addressed racial tensions, sex and sexuality, though far more heteronormative than Gene wanted, and slowly found ways to represent and inspire people of all races, genders, sexualities, beliefs, and capabilities. We have talked about much of this back in season 9 of Treknicity.
Episode 9.
So, yeah, season 9, episode 9. So let's just list where Trek broke some kind of new ground or advanced in diversity, because I tell you, there is so much. There's so much. You could fill like at least 3 enterprises worth of data.
Cubic buttloads.
Race, we started with Nichelle Nichols, continued with Avery Brooks, and further with Sonequa Martin Green. For sexuality and gender, they tackled gender in TNG, sexuality in DS9 with Terry Farrell and Andrew Robertson contributing to the queerness and bringing things to fruition with Anthony Rapp and Wilson Cruz, as well as Blue Del Barrio and Ian Alexander. For women's equality, we started with Grace Lee Whitney's micro miniskirts, Nana Visitor, and then Kate Mulgrew stepping into command. Captain Janeway, I love you. Sonequa again, as well as the sheer number of women in the Kurtzman era compared to prior shows. And for actors bringing neurodiverse characters, we started with Nimoy, we continued with Brett Spiner, and then we go all the way with Mary Wiseman. Jesus, there is so much, and that's definitely not everything, because if I tried to list it, I would run out of breath. So let's just talk about that diversity. Let's talk about the diversity that inspired us. Patrick, what are your thoughts?
There is like you said, we did an episode on this previously because there is just so much on this. Yeah, I jumped to. It really starts with Nichelle Nichols, seeing how many people and how many things she's inspired, from Whoopi Goldberg literally looking at her becoming an actress and then basically getting herself apart on TNG because she just wanted to be in Star Trek. Dr. Mae Jemison, who started as an astronaut because of Nichelle Nichols, then got a small role in Star Trek as a transporter tech, Lieutenant Palmer. And while she was on set, Nichelle shows up to say hi.
Mm-hmm.
And the original story where Nichelle Nichols is thinking of getting out of the show and a fan convinced her otherwise, that fan being Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Some things I found out while I was doing my research. The episode Plato's Stepchildren, where Kirk and Uhura have that interracial kiss that got banned in the South. They filmed a whole bunch of takes, most of which they weren't supposed to kiss, and they'd have the one take where they would have a kiss. They flubbed every take that wasn't the kiss, just so that they had to use the kiss. I'll say that back in TNG, to get into other things with sexism, in TNG, the scants for men didn't quite do it, but thankfully when they got to Starfleet Academy and Jaden's skirts, they got that right, because
It did it for me.
Fit. Oh yeah, did it for everybody. I think it even did it for Lars and Kat. Especially based on what we were discussing beforehand that we won't get into further. But yeah.
Be careful, Patrick. I will leave an upper decker in your toilet.
Oh my god.
Is that the new this entire season? If we upset, just gonna stop the deuce.
Yeah. Probably. Either
upper
way,
decker is when you poop in the tank, not the actual toilet.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah, we understand what it is. It's just we think that's going to be the new threat for season 11. If we upset you, we're going to find a brown shark floating in our tank.
Yeah. Well, this has completely derailed everything. I have no idea where I'm going from here. But suffice it to say, I took a little inspiration from seeing pretty much everybody and every character as they explored things. Even things like the episode with Riker, the episode was The Outcast, where he falls for a non-binary character non-binary alien who then starts to express a gender, and then in the end she gets subjected to conversion therapy and becomes non-binary again. The most interesting thing about that was, from what I understand, Jonathan Frakes really wanted a guy to play that role. just to really drive home the gen, just to drive home the story of gender. And obviously, once we get to the Kurtzman era, it gets all queer out, and it's beautiful. Because from what I understand, Berman and the gang were really, really, really not okay with the gay. So that's where I kind of end on that. So Lars, where do you come down on this?
Well, I think that the four of us all agree on the wonder that is representation in the entire franchise. One of the cool things about it is that despite the fact that the people may be known for a particular behavior or a particular personality, there are elements and examples of them doing things in, in quiet, I guess, rebellion, or passive rebellion, to make sure that Star Trek's message gets told. You said it right there with the flubbing of the kissless takes and Plato's stepchildren. I mean, they did that on purpose, of course, because they had to do it. They had to use what they had because, of course, they had to use a certain amount of film. And if they ran out with the bad takes, they had to use something. So, of course, they forced them to put that in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Too bad Andrew Robinson could pull that off.
Probably. Uh, the thing for me personally is that I grew up different. I am different to this day. Being as old as I am, I'm still different. In fact, to the point where I think I'm so neurodivergent that I really haven't emotionally matured past my late teens, because despite the fact that my body tells me one thing, my brain is still has the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old. But when you look at neurodivergent characters, Spock, Data, and Tilly, which originally Tilly just used to irritate the living shit out of me because it was right in your face. Like there was no escaping it. But that right there was the point. That was, you had to look at it. You had to see it. If you wanted to watch Star Trek, you had to see it. And a lot of people accepted that there are different people, not just people who are off color or have an issue. No, everybody's different. The only reason there is any sense of normalcy because society has told us there has to be. You talked about the fact that the scant never really kind of caught on, but when Jaden came in Starfleet Academy, it was a lot more well accepted, and it's cool because
it was a fit.
It was absolutely wonderful example of there being complete gender neutrality as far as clothing goes. Not only was it cool, I just loved the shit out of all of it. And the fact that it just waved that rebellion in people's faces was awesome. I don't care that Berman didn't like that particular thing being portrayed on screen. Star Trek finally reached its peak when it came to the point where we were showing non-binary characters, we were showing queer characters, and we were showing outright gay characters, and they were just openly accepted. One conversation you and I had recently was the bit from Star Trek Discovery, where Stamets and Culber are in the bathroom brushing their teeth together, and it was just, there was no, hey, look, it's two gay men brushing their teeth together. It's a couple in their quarters brushing their teeth together before they go to bed.
It wasn't. Hey, look at the gay couple.
Exactly. It had nothing to do with it, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I could go on about all of this, but I'm gonna hand it off to James because I know he's got a lot to say.
Well, I did before we started talking about nothing but sexuality on the last topic.
You don't like the gays?
Look, I'll put a different take on it. So for me, I never really was able to identify myself from a sexuality identity perspective in the 90s era track. I wasn't there, right? I wasn't. I couldn't identify myself in one of those characters from a sexuality standpoint. But you know what? It's all right because we were in a completely different era, and it taught me so many different things that, as a person, I'm better for doing. And it taught me that no matter who you are, what you were, where you came from, it was okay. And that for me was one of the greatest lessons I ever learned in 90s era track. Is that, you know, diversity as a whole was celebrated, not just individual topics of sexuality and gender and whatnot. The main thing I got from that was mental health and well-being, and that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. You know, ironically, I think the person I identified most with in the 90s was Barclay because of his introvert anxiety, constant nervousness about everything,
Can't believe I forgot him in
constantly
my prep.
scared of making mistakes. And in the end, he became an integral part of the crew and was accepted for his faults and his failures. And I love that about 90s track. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, it was great to see new era track getting a lot more identifiable characters that were just there. It was never a big deal, you know. You know, like to Patrick's point, look at those gay characters. It was never any of that, and it always sticks in the back of my throat when people are saying that it's been rammed down their throats, because it's not. It's subtle and it's lovely and it's beautiful. But yeah, that's my take on it. I can't really add much more to that beyond what you've already said there, Lars. So over to you, Kat.
I mean, you know, it's a lot of this I did cover during that season 9 episode, and I guess the only things I can really say about it now is, you know, finding the way that they represented things in Trek. I mean, hell, so I started watching Star Trek Discovery during COVID, which, you know, I think it was around that time that they then brought in, you know, Adira and Gray, and you know, seeing that, it kind of showed me like, yeah, it's, you know, stuff like this happens. This is chill. This is just normal. This is part of society. And you know, seeing how things were previously represented in earlier Trek, you know, it wasn't like, again, I was young, I was watching Trek, I didn't understand the whole concept of gay, straight, bi, whatever. I just thought, oh, cool, this person loves this person, yay. And that was all it was to me, is just people being free to be who they want, being free to love whoever they love. I mean, hell, look, I'm gonna just say it. If it wasn't for me finding Star Trek Discovery back in 2020, I wouldn't have come out. I would have been the closeted, you know, I would have been the closeted white boy. But instead, I came out. I decided, you know what? No, this doesn't feel right being a dude. You know, something has to change, and it did. That's, you know, that's why I am the absolute utter perfect being that you see right before you.
Yeah, you are.
You go, girl. Oh,
You love it, baby. And you know what? On top of that, okay, because this was like my favorite thing. Okay, a lot of the actors that we have nowadays in Trek, some of them absolute queer icons. I mean, hell, George Takei. the oh my guy, you know, he is like he is so gay that he is amazing. I mean, hell, when I first started this podcast, I thought, okay, damn, like there's no one gayer than Patrick. I saw George Takei. Oh my lord. And then the fact that J.J. Abrams referenced it with Sulu in the 2 movies that he made, because there are only 2.
And he technically only referenced it in 1.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, they ref like queerness, LGBTQ, everything. All of this is part of Star Trek's identity, and you can try as you might to get rid of it, but we've always been here. We always will be here, and there is nothing you can do to stop us. Anyways, Patrick.
I just want to, if you don't mind, I'd like
to
just share one last thought on it. Just 2 real quick points. One, this podcast is a representation of what we just talked about. There's me, who is a cis straight white male. You have Patrick, who is queer. You have James, who is
big gay nerd.
A raging big gay nerd.
It reminds me of the thing we were discussing earlier.
Huge.
About, we're not going there.
Don't please don't make me edit this any more than I have to already. And then, of course, we have Kat, who is a transgender woman. And if that is not peak representation, I don't know what is. But the other thing that Star Trek, and this isn't necessarily representation of the community that I'm going to make a point about, but it is representation of everybody in this franchise. One of my favorite things to watch on TikTok is Trek Trio with Scotty, Heather, and Kristen. They every time I come across them, I always laugh my ass off. I am always entertained, and I always feel welcome to be there. To me, that is absolute what Star Trek is all about. You can 100%. Talk about the tech. You can talk about the, the sticking points, the tech. I guess you could talk about the points of whatever you want to discuss. You can make it bullets discussion, but at the end of the day, we are all part of the same community. And to me, that is nothing short of awesome.
I think that's a good one. Anybody else?
If Trek Trio could stop broadcasting at 2 a.m. in the morning from a UK time perspective, that'd be really great. Yeah, thanks.
I'll just stay up later. Come on, that's what Monster's for. I think you've got a deal on that.
Side note, I have gotten James addicted to Monster Energy now.
With a side note of that protein drink we were talking about earlier. Anyway,
please, Monster, if you're watching this, please sponsor us, because we will hawk the crap out of your drink. Because I will chug. I will do the 100 can challenge and drink 100 cans of Monster in one go. Just please, Monster, sponsor us. And at that point,
I don't think you'd survive that. I'd survive it.
At that point,
I would be able to.
I think I think Treknicity would become a trio.
I'm the only one who could survive that much caffeine.
Probably.
Oh no, trust me. I've done worse.
Patrick is like Fry in that episode of Futurama where he drinks.
He just keeps drinking slurm.
Well, no, he drinks 100 cups of coffee in the episode, and when he gets to 100 cup or his 100th cup, everything stops. Like there's a fire going on, and he's just walking around picking people up and moving them out, and then it cuts to the real time thing, and you just see this orange blur going.
I mean, bear in mind, I have drank 20 cans of Monster in one go. I did that during the Halloween 24-hour live stream.
And it didn't help.
That would explain your hair.
What, you mean my bright pink hair?
Well, the reference to Futurama probably brings us on to the next topic, doesn't it?
Absolutely does. So, the legacy of the Star Trek franchise is so wide-reaching that it can't be contained by just its impact on cultural conversation, its contributions to the advancement of some science and technology, or the promotion of diversity, equity, inclusion of all people in the world in just the Star Trek multiverse. It has such far-reaching storytelling power that, in addition to the fun of the fan films, it has spawned such movies like Qu- uh, Galaxy Quest and shows like The Orville, which were both parodies of, as well as loving tributes to, Star Trek, and as well as countless documentaries about the shows, fans, actors. Star Trek has become a fountain of pop culture references, appearing regularly in shows that mine the pop culture heavily, like The Simpsons, Futurama, Family Guy, and The Big Bang Theory. Even Star Trek's own Lower Decks is as much a tribute to all the other Star Trek shows as it is the absolute best Star Trek show of all time in its own right. And you know I'm right on that, except it's truth.
We'll fight you.
Yes, we will fight. Let us fight. Phrases such as live long and prosper and the inaccurate but memorable beam me up, Scotty, can be spoken, and even non fans know what you're referring to. It gets a little weirder when you talk to your mouse and say, hello, computer. So let's wrap this up and let's talk about how Trek has shown through as a franchise in the wider cultural conversation. Lars?
Okay, well, this is probably going to be the mother load of references, but as you said, Galaxy Quest, Babylon 5. I know that was, it came out around the same time as DS9, but the Orville and pretty much anything that Ronald D. Moore makes.
Like the BSG reboot?
Exactly.
For All Mankind,
Are
where Star Trek
all
is the show.
inspired by Star Trek. Absolutely, there is no question about it. And
Point of correction: Babylon 5 might have actually inspired DS9 into existence. They just rushed it out before DS5.
We're gonna touch on that.
But we'll go back and forth. So continue.
Let's not poke that bear. Let's not poke that bear.
Yeah, let's Lars is getting
I've got to go over to Ohio.
Yep.
Anyway, the point is that it has absolutely been saturated in popular culture, that everything that we know today has some element of Star Trek either in its DNA or at least on the surface. And to me, that is freaking cool. James, what about you?
I know 100%. I mean, we've already talked about things like Futurama, Family Guy, The Orville, Battlestar Galactica is the reboot. That is one of my all-time favorite shows outside of Star Trek, and it goes without saying. It's got Ronald D. Anything with Ronald D. Moore on, I am going to binge watch on repeat. The fact that he's also done again one of my favorite shows, For All Mankind, just goes without saying. It's just beautiful, beautiful science fiction. And I just absolutely love it. The other thing I would talk about as well is the music. I mean, one of the things that Star Trek gave me is absolute passion for cinematic music, theatrical music. So anything that's got James Horner written over it, I'm going to watch. Whether the film's trash or not, the music will absolutely keep it going. Jerry Goldsmith, again, just beautiful, beautiful scores. I don't think there's much more I can actually say at this point without taking it all away from Kat and Patrick. So over to you, Kat.
So obviously, we think Star Trek, right? We think all the wondrous references that are made. I mean, obviously, as someone who's a bit more of a my nerdiness, shall we say, focuses on three things: Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel.
Section 31.
And in terms of Marvel, honestly, it's not just Marvel; it's just superheroes, right? Section 31 we don't talk about. I regret every positive comment I've ever made about it. But you know,
Thank,
what?
thank you for your service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No.
yeah. Okay, I
So
think
I mean,
I said about you.
yeah.
We'll
So like,
re-record that
obviously, you know, Star Trek has been around for 60 years at this point, and you know, you take a look at major shows, major movies, comic books. I mean, hell, look, Star Trek themselves have actually been referenced in Marvel. There was an official comic book crossover between the Next Generation and X-Men, which, if you've watched the films, is kind of hilarious, especially considering that Professor X and Picard are both played by Sir Patrick Stewart.
I love it. Love it.
There was
I love
also the fact that in Marvel television shows, both Captain Marvel and Ironheart have made references to Star Trek, with, you know, Trekkies being referenced in Ironheart, the main character of Ironheart being compared to Spock, Captain Marvel, you know, they have, well, they quite literally have Talos 4 from The Cage. We take a look at Star Wars. I mean, you know, a lot of Star Wars stuff was inspired by Star Trek. The home planet of the Wookiees is quite literally a reference to Kronos, aka, you know, Klingon homeworld. DS9 has also mentioned Star Wars.
We are rage-baiting Star Wars fans right now, Kat.
Well, you know what? Bring it. Star Wars, right? And a lot of, I mean, hell, even more recently, we have had a reference to TNG themselves in season 4 of Invincible. They travel on a ship called the Venture with the crew known as the Captain, who is bald, loves tea, and wears red. We have Warg, Download, and Counselor Tuva. If you don't get it, well, then clearly you're not a true Trekkie. And, you know, hell, you know, even
My daughter could
just
get that.
the
too.
fact that Star Trek survives and goes to other franchises with references.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. Patrick, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, even though I wasn't a fan of Star Trek growing up, there was always references. Saturday Night Live was making fun of the original series easily, and I think that was like 70s, so that was even before I was even staying up that late because I was like a kid. I know that's hard to imagine.
I know.
Family Guy, I think, got TNG crew. Futurama had the original series crew. I mean, literally literally just brought them in.
Yeah, I remember.
I
that.
just realized I forgot a reference.
No,
Which reference?
DC's Legends of Tomorrow, the amazing time travel show on the CW. There was an episode where. Pardon? No. Basically, no. So DC's Legends of Tomorrow. There was an episode where they were just directly put into Star Trek. Like that's it. That's the thing. They were all just in Star Trek, and it was amazing. I can't believe I forgot that. It was like my favorite episode.
Could be worse. Could be Doctor Who crossovers with Star Trek. That's happened in comic books, I believe.
And that's only happened twice, okay? Twice.
Now, just a little jump back because I got into Babylon 5 really big before I got into DS9. A little thing about Babylon 5, two things. Number one, they made better use of Walter Koenig, no question. Star Trek dropped the ball with that. Second thing, apparently J. Michael Straczynski was shopping around Babylon 5, and the executives that got looking at it might have decided, hey, we could use this general idea for Star Trek. And they basically made a similar show to Straczynski's show. And and from what I understand, it was a little bit of a back and forth between fans of the two franchises, to the point that Majel Barrett shows up on Babylon 5 in an episode to kind of make peace between the two camps. and it's a good episode. Of course, most of the episodes of Babylon 5 are good till season 5.
The question I have for you about B5 is, um, when when did it actually premiere? Do you know? Off the top of your
Yeah,
head?
DS9 came out January 1993, whilst Babylon 5 aired its pilot movie in February 1993.
yeah,
Okay,
they
Babylon 5, the show, didn't start until 1994.
right. Okay, but here's the thing. One thing I do know is that we would never have had DS9 when we had it if Gene Roddenberry had lived longer, because
amen.
Deep Space Nine was the one thing that he did not want to happen. He did not want the gritty, ugly face of Star Trek shown on TV. He wanted people to face adversity and solve it with intellectual solutions.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah, he'd have shit over the pale moonlight.
oh,
Yeesh.
absolutely. I mean, he would just. I think he would have turned over. But I think it was kind of for the franchise a fortuitous event that he passed when he did, because that did allow them to do that. It's just so happens that these two franchises kind of, I guess, passed each other in the night, and then you have that conversation. But again, whether it was inspired by Babylon 5 or not, as Patrick said, the great thing is that Majel Barrett held out the olive branch, and I think we had a good resolution out of it.
And we had
Technically,
two great
Babylon-
shows.
Yeah, technically, Babylon 5 existed before DS9 because Straczynski pitched the idea to Paramount in 1988,
Well, there you go.
but Paramount rejected it.
I've never
And-
watched Babylon 5, so it doesn't count for me. Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. When you get a chance, go back and watch it. It's well worth an investment of time.
It's on my list.
You have to push through season 1 because some of the episodes are a little uneven.
It's a bit of Gods and Men, isn't it?
No, because Walter Koenig is absolutely the best in the universe.
Or,
You,
okay, so
you
we're all
have not
saying
seen Awesome until you've seen Bester in
so
action.
it's of Gods and Men with Renegades combined. Is that what we're saying?
Sure.
Oh my god.
Tim Russ is not
no.
involved in it at all.
Oh, James, man.
You
Hello.
You know what, James? If you're not careful, Patrick's gonna leave an upper decker in you.
Have I become the cat of season 11? Is this what's happening right now?
apparently.
Yeah.
I'm the rage
you're
baiter.
the
I'm
rage
the
baiter.
problem. Right. Okay. All right. Move on.
Wow.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to these?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
There is one last thing
Go
I
ahead.
do want to raise up, which is we're doing 60 years of Star Trek a bit of a disservice by not acknowledging the film that everybody keeps saying doesn't exist.
No, we're
So
not.
I just want to end on a high note of acknowledging Star Trek Into Darkness, because
No, it doesn't.
it is a
No.
film that does exist, as does Section
No,
31, and I
no.
just want to state that.
Yeesh, new cat, would you shut up?
Yeah, you cat.
You are no longer James, you are now new cat. The old cat's was bad enough, but you were just yeesh.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better at this. James, you now need to dye your hair pink as you are the new cat.
I've just put the cap on to obscure it.
I love the he turned me into cat. I got better.
Oh please let that happen.
Oh, do we have any more points? Any more bits?
Please no more. No more. No more.
Okay.
Bring
No
us home,
worries.
Cat.
Don't worry. Don't worry. So, let's wrap up this heated discussion on 60 years of Star Trek. Did we get it right? Miss anything? Because with 60 years and a whole lot of dementia, I'm sure we did. Do you agree? Disagree? Let us know.
Thank you for joining us here on Treknicity, where we dive into the diversity and dreams of the Star Trek multiverse. I'm your host, Patrick.
I'm Lars.
I'm Cat 2.
And I'm Cat Prime.
And as always, remember to rock out with your Spock out. We will see you and you and you and you. And don't think I have missed you over there
Steve.
for the next mission.